so welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
So glad to have you all here. I am Leah Wilson-Felis, and this is a beginner yoga class for Yoga Studio Satya. And we are recording it for Zoom, for YouTube, and I've got quite a few lovely ladies here in the studio. So I'm excited to share the practice with you today. And this is beginner yoga, so make sure to honor your body and make sure to always feel comfortable in your postures. The 3 rules of yoga is that you find the pose to your best ability. It doesn't need to look like me. So if sitting like this is hurting your legs, feel free to sit up on a bolster, get a little bit higher up off the ground, kind of sit up on your throne. You can sit on blocks, things like that. So you can always stretch a leg out if your knee starts to get tired, or your hip or something like that, or just change it up in any way. So just know that if you're switching and changing and adapting, that's a good thing. And so the second rule is find the appropriate pressure. So that means if it hurts, it's not going to be doing good for your body. So we want it to feel good. Sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable as we're stretching, but discomfort is different than pain. And then the third rule is breathe. So let's get started. I have a fun mudra chosen for today. This is the book that we use, Mudras. And there's 108 mudras in here. And what mudras are hand positions, the ones that you see in yoga classes. This one's really simple. What you do is you join the hands together in front of your chest with the fingers pointing upward. You want to spread the knuckles apart while keeping the tips of the fingers together. And then we're going to kind of just tuck our thumbs into our hand. So you want to kind of just bend your thumb knuckles and point them into the center of your hand and try to reconnect the heels of your hands where the wrists are. So it's kind of like a prayer position, but then you just kind of open it up and tuck your thumbs in there. And that's called the Sakshi Mudra. You can hold it in front of your heart. You can just let it rest in your lap if you want to. Really, it's whatever feels good for you. And that's what you're going to hear me say again and again. If it doesn't feel good, then change it. And so this is all about clarity. So this is the clarity mudra. This mudra creates this triangle. You can see this triangle in your fingers, and we're going to try to imagine that as we breathe, our energy is coming from our nostrils, from the sides of our body, and coming up and meeting at our third eye. And then exhaling back down to those nostrils, and maybe even back down to the earth. So as you inhale, feel the energy rise up and gather at your third eye, right in the center of your forehead. And as you exhale, feel all your energy drop and ground and soften. So let's just practice that together a couple times, just breathing with our hands in this mudra. Starting to create clarity. And this clarity, it supports and cultivates the space for us to study ourselves, to see what works for us and what doesn't, what we might need to change. And that being said, if something is feeling uncomfortable in your physical body, take some time to just gently change it. There's no shame or judgment or guilt about looking different than everyone else. It's more about how it feels in your body than how it looks. So we find our posture. We find the appropriate depth. So that means we're kind of playing Goldilocks. It's not too much and it's not too little. And then we breathe. So let's take 2 more deep breaths, maybe 3 more, as we inhale and lift the energy and gather it towards the third eye. And then exhale and let our body relax. Ground. Feel free to release your hands at any time. So that too, if that's feeling uncomfortable or you just need to change, feel free to let them go. And when you do, just wiggle out your hands, stretch out your fingers. If you need to change your legs, change your legs. Let's just do some quick body warm-ups and then we'll start to get moving. So again, sit however you want to. I can sit like this for a very long time, so sometimes I'll just like switch my legs up, or if you need to stretch a leg out, you can do that, or both legs. But wherever you are, grab onto your knees, so even if your legs are straight out here. And what we're going to do is round our back like a mad cat, tuck the chin to the chest, and then we'll inhale and draw the shoulders back and lift through your throat, lift through your neck. And then we'll exhale and round and inhale to lift, just like we were lifting up through that third eye. So work with your own breath here. You don't have to match me. We can all be a little different here. And so if you're sitting cross-legged and you want to move more into that cow and move more into that cat position, you can really make this dramatic or you can make it very soft. The choice is really yours. What feels good in your body? So it takes a couple rounds for us to notice where we need to stop so that we don't cause pain. If we need to change our legs up a little bit, switch the angles of them, or change which one is on top or in front. Nice work, everyone. We're going to start to make some big circles. We do this pose often in beginner yoga, so as you come forward, choose a side. I'm going to go to the left today because I always go to the right. And then I'm going to lean back and then go over to the right and just make big circles so that your whole lower body is kind of like a bowl that's just swiveling on all its edges, and your upper body is kind of that weight in the bowl that's leaning it from side to side, the liquid in the bowl, if you will, that's about to spill out of the top. Nice. And again, that can be soft or it can be really gentle. Easy. Feel free to switch directions, switch your legs, switch anything that you need to when your body tells you. And so what I kind of listen to in my body is when my body starts to feel better, like it starts to subside, all those initial sensations where I'm like, oh, when I go through here, I really feel it through my leg. And when I'm over here, I feel it in my waist. And so when that starts to kind of go away after a couple rounds, it's like scrubbing those areas. That's when I know I can change it up. Nice work, everybody. So we're just kind of warming things up, getting our body and our cells, our new cells, accustomed to what their jobs are. Let's come back to center, and let's extend these legs out, give our knees and hips a little break. Maybe wiggle out the knees, flex and point your toes, lubricate those joints a couple times. And we're going to just ground our fingers here. So our 4 points of connection are our heels and our 2 hip bones, our sits bones. And so we want those points to always stay grounded. We'll drop our right hand into the floor and reach the left hand out, and maybe it goes up. If it hurts your shoulder at all, just stop there or go backwards a little so it doesn't hurt. And then start to lean over as far as your body allows to the right. So again, if it's like, okay, that's a little too far, you might have to just back up half an inch until it's a little uncomfortable, it doesn't hurt, and then breathe. Nice work. We'll switch directions when you're ready to. So take that big inhale, pull yourself up, and then we'll move over to the left side. So we'll find our position, we'll find the appropriate pressure, appropriate depth, and then we'll start to breathe. I take about 3 or 4 deep breaths. So if you're taking nice long breaths, it should be about 30 seconds. And then we'll inhale back to center. You got it. Let's do it again to each side so that our muscles start to create some memory. Our nervous system connects up to those muscles, and the more we practice the same move, the more our brain says, oh, this is normal. Yeah, looks good. Don't forget to breathe. That part's really important as we oxygenate the blood. We'll bring ourselves back up. One more time over towards the left. So bend that left elbow, maybe slide it out a little further, but try not to let your right butt bone lift. Nice work. Inhale when you're ready, back up to center. Let's do a little forward and backward movement, oppositional, big inhale up to the sky. So let's have you roll your toes up to the sky. Keep them up there and start to roll forward. I'm not quite at my toes yet. I'm at my shins, at my ankles. But if you want to reach for your toes, you could always wrap a long strap around the bottom of your feet. Now either way that you're here, if you're feeling a stretch, you're doing it right. So find the appropriate depth for you and then start to just breathe into it. See if you can relax your mind a little bit. Nice work. I know, sometimes when we hold it for our full 3 or 4 breaths, that's where it gets a little bit intense. So go ahead and roll up whenever you need to. Now if this is a comfortable seated position, stay like this. I'm going to come back to cross-legged seated, but again, if this is more comfortable for your body, then you should stay like that. We're just going to work our neck a little bit, and then we'll do a couple more hip stretches, and then we'll start to flow with some moon salutations, because tomorrow's a full moon. So, hands can be here, they can be off to the side, that's really up to you. We're just working our neck here, so sit up nice and tall, ground through that tailbone, lift through the crown, shoulders back, and we're just going to lean our head to the right. So right ear, right shoulder. And let's see if we can find that appropriate depth so that it doesn't hurt. And take a deep breath. And we can switch sides. So how I switch sides is I like to carve out my collarbone, so I draw my chin to my chest, and then I roll my head to the left. The opposite side, and find the depth, find the pressure that's right, and then take a breath. Nice work. Do that a couple more times. So feel free to work at your own pace. If it would feel better for you to move quicker through this, more like a lubrication move, so if you're moving just very quickly back and forth, that's really just kind of moving synovial fluid into the joint capsules. You have to kind of hold and sustain that lengthened position for it to be considered stretch. So taking that deep breath, or 2 breaths if it feels really good, and then switching sides. And if you found a good spot and it needs longer, stay longer. If it's feeling a little sore and stiff today and it needs to be stretched often and in different ways, then do that. There's so many ways to make it unique for your body. This next time, let's meet with our chin to our chest. So just kind of head hanging down, but still tall through the spine. So we're not rounding forward. We want to sit up with energy and just draw the chin to the chest. Sweep your hands out to the sides or the back of your head. You can even interlace your fingers back there if you want to. And then let your elbows rest on either side of your face. Start to round. Round your chin to your chest, start to round your upper back, look down towards your legs. Gentle, gentle neck stretch here. It's a neck traction. Don't forget that breath. When you're ready to, you can lift. You don't have to wait for me to tell you to. You can listen to your body and what it needs. So when you're ready, lift your head back into your hands, squeeze those elbows back, squeeze, 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 and then we're going to lean from side to side. You can feel that in your waist, in your ribs there, underneath that armpit on the side that you're leaning away from. But feel free to just move at your own accord here. Trying to keep those sits bones rooted so that we're not peeling up too much. Looks really good. The isolation is really nice. Coming back to center once again. If you want to round back into that and then let go, you can. We'll just release whenever you're ready to. Nice work. Alright, whenever I do those stretches, I like to just work it out with a couple shoulder rolls, and I might rotate my head and lean it a couple more times just to test it out, see if it's feeling better. A little bit more stretch there. Alright, so let's do a couple more hip stretches, and we'll start to move a little bit here. So let's extend our left leg out here. Our right knee will stay bent. And if it needs a little bit of lift, you could always put a pillow under there. You could always put a little block underneath your knee. Or gravity's going to do its work, and it's going to open up that inner thigh, and you might even feel a stretch in that thigh. So it's totally up to you what feels good. Again, we don't want to get lazy with that left foot, so keep the toes pointed up. You can either slide right down. I always like to find length first, so I reach up to the sky. I try to stay straight here and just lean forward towards my left foot, towards my left shin, my toes. I've been watching a lot of students put their hands on the sides of their ankles, and I really like that. So again, it's whatever feels right for your body. See if you can kind of just close your eyes and tune into your own body here. Play Goldilocks for a second. Is that enough stretch? Is it too much stretch? Adjust if needed. And hopefully we've been breathing, but let's take a conscious breath here. Good job. All right, so as we roll up, you should feel that stretch behind the back of the thigh. Now we're going to bring it into the inner thigh. So we're going to take that foot and just bring it right out off the side of the mat. I'm going to hop up real fast because someone's joining us. All right, hi Julianne. Alright, so we have our foot out off to the side. Our right foot is still kind of where it was. So when I do that, when I take my foot out, I can feel my inner thigh stretching here already. I'm going to sit up nice and tall, keep these points connected, and just lean my belly button right down towards my right foot. Well, it doesn't get very close, but I can really feel my left inner thigh stretching there. So again, try to keep the sits bones really rooted to the floor there, and that's where you're going to create length. Grounding and creating length from an anchored space. Looks good. And that one's intense, so we have to really okay, I have to breathe into this a little bit. Adjust if need be. And go ahead and roll yourself back up. Again, if you need to adjust to your legs at all, feel free to do that. We're going to add the side bend. So reach your left hand down your left leg, reach your right hand out to the side, up to the sky if it's okay for your shoulder, over your head. So usually we're kind of forward over our leg, and now we're reaching our left ear for our left shoulder and our left elbow for our left knee. Yeah. I like your modification, Allison. She has her right hand to her ear instead of reaching over her head. So it's kind of honoring that shoulder a bit more. Great job. When you're ready to come out of it, make sure to honor yourself. Let's do the other side. So I'm just going to extend my right leg forward, bend my left knee in. We're going to go straight forward first for that, it's called Janusir Shasana, or head to knee position. So reach your hands up. We'll start to reach forward for right toes, right ankle, right shin, right knee. And just bow your head right down to that right knee. Again, mine doesn't get very close. There are some people who might be able to touch their head to their knee. If I put my block here, I could maybe do that. See? That's another use for a block. Now I can touch my head to my knee. Whenever you're ready, when you're like, okay, I've been stretching for about 30 seconds or more, and you want to release it, come on back up to center. So we can slide our right foot out to the side here a couple inches, start to engage that inner thigh, sit up nice and tall. The belly button's going to reach right here for our left foot. And as we do that, as you just lean into that position, your right inner thigh should start to stretch. Again, appropriate pressure, so find the right amount of depth of stretch. If it's too much, maybe you lift up half an inch. And then a deep breath. I try to take about 3 to 6 breaths in each pose just to find that time. Time is really the ingredient that allows things to lengthen. Nice work. We'll move into the side head to knee position, rolling yourself back up first. We'll find our right position by reaching right hand down, left hand out. Left hand can reach up, it can reach over, it can reach to your ear. It's up to you. And so as we do this, we want to just try to keep our heart open towards the side, out towards the left. Leaning your head down towards the right, through your right ear. I like your modification too, Isabel. She has her left hand binded behind her low back. That's another cool one too. So when you're ready, take that big inhale, pull yourself up out of your pose, and let's relieve our legs, relieve our body here by bringing everything back to center, wiggling everything out, maybe supporting yourself on your hands back here behind you slightly. I like to do that with my fingers turned out. And then I'm going to squeeze my shoulders back, lift up through my heart, open my throat by gently dropping my head back. Not doing anything that doesn't feel good in my body. Now while I'm here with my head laying back, just hanging out here on a Sunday, we'll just point and flex our toes. Nice. You can start to lift up through the crown, lifting up through your head once again. We'll lift up through our upper body, our torso, so engage through that core, lift up to the sky. And we'll forward fold. See how it's feeling. Nice job. Bowing the head down here, chin to chest. Perhaps lifting your gaze and looking straight out ahead of you and seeing how that gaze, just changing the way that you're looking from down to straight ahead, how that changes your stretch. And we'll roll back up. Our last hip stretch here will be our famous butterfly legs, Baddha Konasana, with our feet together and our knees apart. Of course, knees can be very lifted here. It doesn't matter how close they get to the ground. If you feel like you need some support here, you can do that by putting some support under your thighs. Some people also like to lift their pelvis up higher by sitting up on a block, and that allows more downward movement of the hips. I like to grab onto my toes here, sit up nice and tall. And it's up to you. If you want to keep a straight back as you lean forward, you can. Or you can make like a little turtle shell. So that's up to you too. See which one feels better. Sometimes I'll do like a little cat and cow in my spine just to see. I think today, well of course, cow feels better. But cat feels like it's doing something for me. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of discernment as we stretch our body. It's a lot of decisions and choices that we have to make for ourselves. Like, how long do you want to hold this? It's totally up to you. I'm going to take one more. I'm going to try to take the deepest breath I've taken all day. Then I'll start to roll myself back up, pressing into the floor or my feet. Extend those legs out, give the hips a little break. Again, you have to bring some energy back into them by wiggling them out. We're going to switch to hands and knees here. So make sure you've got whatever kind of cushion you need under your knees or under your wrists. And if you do have water and you like to grab a drink, feel free to do that. So I just put my blanket underneath my knees, but if you're like, well, it's more my wrist that hurts, then you can always put your wrists up on that blanket. We have lots of blankets here in the studio, so make sure you have whatever you need. Another trick is to roll your mat up a couple times and then put your wrists on top of that, the heel of your wrist and fingers on the floor, and that takes some of the flexion out of the wrist joint. So that is our biggest complaint in yoga, is it hurts my wrists. And the reason why it hurts is because our wrist joints and our bones are a little bit weak. And so the only thing that's going to make it stronger is doing this work. So last week it was like, don't wish for it, work for it. You know? So let's do some traditional cats and cows here. Just raising the spine up, dropping the spine through. Shoulders down as you go into cow, shoulders up by your ears as you go into cat. Nice. Again, just moving at your own pace here. If something feels extra good in your body, then you might just hang out there. Like cat feels really good for me today, so I might just hang out there. And while I'm in cat, rock my hips from left to right. I kind of feel like a bear scratching my back on a tree here. Nice. Now again, if your hands, your wrists are starting to get a little tired, maybe you switch to fists at some point and see if it will feel better to have your wrist kind of locked over your hand. Now you change back and forth. Now come on back through to center here. Separate your knees a little bit wider. When I come back towards child's pose, I can come down to child's pose, but it doesn't feel good on my knees. So I just come down as far as my body will allow. And then I'm going to walk my hands off my mat towards the right. And as I do that, I'm going to take my left hip and lean it back towards the back left wall, the back left corner. So I'm feeling a lot of stretch in my left tricep and underarm and left ribs. Nice, finding that breath. And then we'll bring it back to center here. I lift up onto my hands. Walk my hands back onto my invisible yoga mat here and over to the left. And as I go to the left, I'm going to sink my hips back towards that back right corner. And when I did that at first, it kind of twinged in my knee, so I knew I had to come back up, adjust my knees differently, and try it again. So I'm always trying to find that appropriate pressure. So if something hurts, I've got to make an adjustment. I've got to change something. And then I'll find it again in a more comfortable way, finding the breath. And whenever you want to change and come back up, just lift back to your hands. Walk your hands back onto your mat. Back to center, adjust your legs, and we'll find center child's pose. If child's pose does not feel good on your knees, that means that your hips are all the way on your heels, or as close as they can be. Then do puppy pose instead, which is hips lifted and a heart melted. If that hurts your shoulders, draw your elbows back. Maybe you want to rest your forehead on a yoga block here instead of on the floor. This is a great rendition to child's pose. So we can modify however we need to make this available for all of our bodies, wherever we are in our body. Now let's find our breath here and redirect that breath towards the third eye. right to the center of your forehead. Great job. With your next inhale, roll yourself up to your tabletop position. I'm going to take the socks off here, just so I make sure I stick to the floor. But we're going to add some active cats into a low lunge. We've been practicing this, so let's try it. Right leg is going to kick back behind us and we look forward. And then we're going to round our back and bring our knee through. Let's try that a couple times. You inhale to lift and exhale to round. Couple more. I'm going to do it 5 times. I'm going to do it 3 more times. Big inhale to lift, big exhale to round. Last one. Nice job. Now I'm going to kick that leg back up, give myself some momentum, and try my best to get my right leg forward. So if you're like, ooh, that's hard, then feel free to reach back there and help it. Make sure you've got enough cushion underneath your left knee here. Let me know if I can grab you any extra blocks or anything, or any extra pillows. All right, so we are going to work up to the top of our right knee. And then you've got choices. You can stay here, you can bring your hands to your heart, or you can lift your hands up over your head. So this is our low lunge. Nice job. And then we'll start to fold forward, right over top the leg. Now let's try those positions on the left side and see where we're at here. So compare our sides. I'm just going to bring my right hand to the inside, swing it around, and then I'm going to do 5 of those on the left here. So I'm going to inhale to lift my left leg back, and then exhale to round it forward. And do that again. Inhale to lift it up, and exhale to round. 3 more. Nice job. And let's try to get into that lunge and see how this side feels. With the left foot forward, adjusting your hand, moving your hand around, using it to your ability there. And then when you get in the right position, you can adjust. So you can stay here. You could lift up to your knee if you'd like. Some people will lift their hands to their heart, out ahead of them, or even up over their head. So that is our low lunge. Sanskrit, it's Anjaneyasana. Nice job. So I feel it stretch a lot through my right thigh. Feeling a little burning, a little shaking in that thigh, that left one. And then we'll lower the hands, bring them down. I bring my left hand to the inside of that foot. And it's not always pretty, but I'm going to try to bring my left foot back, 2 hands and knees. All right, so now we have to practice how to get up off the ground. And this is important stuff because we got to get up off the ground if we fall, you know? So we were talking about this earlier, and it's so great that you're talking to people like at the dog park about it. It's so great. But this is the flexibility. It's the toes tucking. That's really crucial. And it's like, what do you mean? Why is that so important? Well, it's because as we need to get up off the floor, we either need to be able to tuck the toes to lift this way, or we need to be able to come into that lunge, tuck the back toe to lift this way. So let's practice. Tuck your toes under. Try to lift up off your knees a little bit. Test it out. I just lift a couple times. You don't have to lift your hips way up there quite yet. You don't have to at all. Nice job. Now if your hands are getting a little tired, that's when you need to take the pressure off of them. So keep your toes tucked if you can. And then walk up so that you're in like a kneeling position. Still with your toes tucked. Yeah. I'm like, still with your toes tucked. And then the hard part, of course, would be like sitting down. That's called broken toe pose. Yeah, it's not a good one. So, I mean, it is, but it's good to practice, but it's also like, It's not something we're used to. The more we practice it, the more our nervous system says, oh, this is normal. So go ahead and come back down onto your hands. If your hands are sore, elbows, and tap out the tops of your feet. So point your toes back, tap the ground. Sorry, Pam. She's probably down there doing acupuncture. Okay. Now let's practice our down dog. You don't have to stay here forever. Tuck your toes. Roll up off your knees. Your hips are going to press back as well as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just about how it feels. And then we can start to walk our hands back towards our feet or walk your feet forward to your hands. Do a little bit of both in the middle. We end up in this forward fold where we're just kind of hanging down. Feel free to separate your feet as wide as you need. Bend your knees as much as you need. And then we're going to start to roll up kind of like a rag doll. So just rolling up slowly, slowly. I don't want you to get dizzy, so rolling up slowly is really beneficial. As you come up, adjust your clothes, your hair out of your mouth, arrange everything so if you need to get things off your mat. That's called Saucha, and it's one of our niyamas, and it means cleanliness. So you're like organizing your space. So cleanliness. So we're going to do a moon salutation. So moon salutations are a little different than sun salutations, but they include those lunges that we practice, the low lunge. Now if it hurt your knee a lot to low lunge, like this, then you can totally do a high lunge today if you want to. But it's more energy. It's not necessarily considered beginner. But either way, it's good. They're same but different. So let's start here at our heart. You could even come back to that Sakshi Mudra with your thumbs tucked in there. And let's inhale and imagine that energy rising to our third eye. And exhale and let your body relax and ground through your feet. Soften your knees here a little bit. We'll go nice and slow here, and we just do what we can. Make it up. If you're like, I can't do that move, just make it up. We'll inhale right here. Exhale, let your hands come down to the sides. That's called mountain position. Inhale, bring your hands out. Maybe they go up. And then we'll exhale. I bend through my knees and I'm going to roll forward. So if you're not quite at the ground, then maybe you grab your block. And blocks have 3 edges. So they have a tall edge, a medium, and a low. So you can choose which level you need. I keep my feet separated here. Bend through the knees. Let's straighten just the right leg. The left knee stays bent. And then we'll bend both. Now if that's hard, separate your feet wider. We'll try the other side. So straighten out the left leg, the right knee stays bent. Nice. Now that's a lot of coordination. Let's practice it a couple times. Bend both knees. Straighten just the right leg. You have to adjust your hips a little. Shift your right hip back. And then bend both knees. And straighten just the left leg. Shift that left hip back a little bit. Yeah, let's try one more time. It doesn't have to go all the way straight. It's okay. It's just more straight than the other side. It's all relative. One more on the left. So the left leg's going to go straight as it can. Bend both knees. Now with both knees bent, we're going to lift our hands from the floor, from the block. Bring your hands right underneath your knees. Lengthen your legs out. Lengthen your spine. So your legs now are straight and your spine is as straight as it can go. It's kind of like when you don't have a table and someone's like, "Can I write on your back?" I'm like, "Here you go. Here's my back table." One more breath. Pull that belly button in. Exhale, bend through your knees. We're going to fold forward as far as we can. Get your fingertips to the floor. Keep the right foot where it is. So don't mess with your right foot. Just our left foot is going to step back. Then we're going to drop onto our left knee. Now you can untuck that left toe if you want to. Now if you're like, I wanted to do high lunges today, then you're going to keep that left knee lifted instead. So that is up to you. I'm going to keep it beginner while I'm demonstrating and have my left knee on the floor. Toe can stay tucked or not. Up to you. Now we practiced this earlier. Hands to the knee, hands to the heart, or hands up over your head. What would you like? Inhale while you're here. And exhale to lunge a little deeper. Again. Float those hands down right by your foot. Tuck that back left toe. Now here's the hard part. We're going to lift that knee. And here, this is truly the hard part. Step that right foot back. We're in downward facing dog. Nice job. Bend your knees. Don't worry about touching your heels to the floor here. Nice work, everybody. Drop to hands and knees. Beginner style. Untuck those toes. Roll your weight forward over top your hands, and we're going to lower down thighs, belly, chest. Onto the belly, onto the front, and we call this Sphinx Pose right here. If you start to peel your chest up a little bit, that's the Sphinx. If you press into your hands and keep your elbows bent, that's Cobra. If you lengthen your elbows, then that's Up Dog, but I'm not there yet. Not very beginner. We'll lower back down. Nice. Take a moment to let your back relax after you pressed it down into the floor like that. Now the opposite of that pose is child's pose or downward dog. So I find my way up to hands and knees. I start to round through my back. But I want to do the other side too to make sure I get balanced today. So let's roll up to hands and knees. Let's practice tucking our toes. Roll up off those knees, downward dog. Another challenge. Lift your right foot up into the air. Whoa, good job. And then step just your right foot forward. And then your left, and then your right, and then your left, all the way into the forward fold. Nice job. So forward fold looks different for everyone. And then we're going to reset the back, and that's the half forward fold. And that's where you lift your back halfway, and I imagine that my spine is like dominoes that are setting back up, clicking back up to the original setup. And then I'll lower back down, and let's find our way up. You can roll up, you can do a reverse swan dive. I sweep my arms out like a bird, sweep them up, and bring my hands right down back into my heart. So that's a slow a moon salutation. Now that we know what we're doing, we might speed it up for the opposite side. So again, we just do the best we can. Make sure to try to take deep breaths as you're going here, and we just modify and do what we can for our postures. So take a breath, clarity. Inhale up to the third eye, and exhale, grounding. Let your hands down. Inhale up over your head. Swan dive, forward fold. I bend my knees, I separate my feet, and I'm going to roll down into that forward fold. Now let's straighten that let's practice that coordination, straightening and bending one leg at a time. So I just have my right leg straight, my left knee bent, and then I'm going to switch them. I'm just switching them. And then I'm going to switch them again. Maybe one more on each side. The leg that's more straight is the leg I feel more stretching. Nice. Good. Come back to center and we'll reset our dominoes. So lift halfway up. Lengthen the legs, lengthen the spine, reach the hips out. One more breath, pull that belly button in. There's a lot to think about. And exhale back down to the forward fold. Now our left foot is going to stay where it is this time. The right foot is going to step back. If you're in a high lunge, you won't drop your knee. If you're sticking with me for the traditional moon salutations, then the right knee will drop. Choose your position. Hands on the knee, hands at the heart, up overhead maybe. And then we breathe. Nice job. Last breath. We'll exhale to float our hands down. And we're going to find our way to that high lunge. So tuck your back right toe, lift your back right knee. Hard part is stepping that left foot back for downward facing dog. Not easy stuff, that's for sure. All right, so from here, downward dog, we lower our knees down to our blanket or down to our yoga mat, untuck the toes, and we're going to try to roll ourselves down onto our belly. So I bend my elbows on the way. I readjust when I get down here, and then find the heart lift of your choice. It could be easy just looking ahead. If you want some pressure, a cobra, I can't go much higher than that. And then we'll lower back down. And find your way to either child's pose or downward dog. Your choice here. I spend a moment in my child's pose just to relax my back here. And then I'll roll up to hands and knees, tuck those toes, and find that downward dog. Just the left leg is going to lift back up into the air. It's not easy. It doesn't have to lift high. Then we step just our left foot forward, then our right, then our left, then our right, all the way forward to that forward fold. Separate your feet if need be. Let's reset the spine. So that's the half forward fold, the dominoes, setting up on a flat back. And then we'll exhale to our ragdoll. We'll just hang out here for a couple of breaths. So separate your feet as wide as you need. Even slightly off the edges of the mat is okay. You can bend your knees more and start to just rock a little bit. Let your head go as well as you can. So my arms are kind of like a pendulum, rocking from side to side as I transfer the weight from foot to foot, into the right foot, bending the right knee, into the left foot, bending the left knee. Great job. We're going to start to zigzag up the body so the hands are a pendulum in front of the shins. The right shin, the left shin, and then the right knee and the left knee. And the right thigh and the left thigh. And the right hip and the left hip. And as you roll up, your arms will separate and we'll move into bear into the woods, where you're just kind of flailing the arms around on either side. Traditionally, this is a Qigong move. It's called knocking on the door of life, and you want your hand to gently knock on your kidney as you come around. And the kidneys, of course, they move all the blood and the fluid through your body. And so without those kidneys functioning, then, no life. So we've got to knock on them a little bit and be like, wake up, work for me, and drink lots of water. All right, we'll let our arms just relax here. We'll practice a balance move, our traditional tree move, on each side, and then we'll relax. So balance is good. Yes, use your neighbor, or if you're like, tree going here, I'm going to come over here. So just on each side. Right foot grounds, left knee bends. We turn that left knee out and maybe even lift it up. Now if you're like, whoa, then keep your left toes on the floor. That's fine. This is a supported tree pose. So we make like a little kickstand. Some people like having their hands at their heart. Some people want to use their neighbor. Some people like, I've seen someone pull on their opposite ear. I don't know. That was Dan. Yeah, it kind of works. I'm like, actually.
It does.
Yeah, I'm like, it kind of works. So pull on this one, Kelly.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
I'm like, wait,
right? I'm like, it kind of works. Weird. Thanks, Dan. Nice. You can switch sides when you're ready and just compare. Is there one side where you're more like, whoa? You can blame it on the moon. I always blame balance on barometric pressures, and we've had some of that lately too with weather patterns. Nice trees. I like your tree too, Isabel. She's doing a recline tree. Beautiful warrior 3, Catherine. Nice job. We'll release it down. Now, in lieu of those toes being tucked, now if you don't, of course, everything is optional. These are toe stands. So I'm going to roll up to my tippy toes and try to hold myself up there, and I get a little, okay, squeeze your inner thighs together. There we go, that helps. Now this is hard part, and if you don't have a lot of flexion in your knees, it might not work as well, but we're going to try to bend our knees a lot. And you can even rest your fingers on the floor, so if you're like, this is all I got, then you might have to roll backwards. But I'm going to try to bend my knees as much as I can. Yeah, knee pops. And if you're like, nope, my knees don't do that, then we're going to find our way down to the ground. But here we are, so I'm just going to let myself roll back here and lengthen out. Yeah, that's hard stuff. It is, those toe stands. All right, so now we have to set up our space so we can relax because we just worked pretty hard. So if you'd like to use your blanket as a blanket, you can do that. Or it can be a pillow, or you can roll it up underneath your knees. You can use that bolster underneath your knees here as well. So it's up to you if you like to be reclined with your knees over a bolster, you can do that. If you like to be just laying on the ground. Now in yoga, we typically take the last 5, 8, 10 minutes to just relax and feel all of the work that we have achieved during this last hour, because we did a lot. We did a lot of work here, a lot of moves for our body. If you feel like you still need to move a little bit, then maybe adding some window wipers where your knees are bent with your feet flat and you just rock your knees from right to left. And that brings a gentle twist into your low back. Kind of massaging your hips down into the floor as you rock your knees into that direction. But also, if you feel like you need to just lay on the ground and find stillness, then that is a wonderful option. There are many, many, many variations, many options of ways to keep moving or ways to just rest on the floor here. And we have to find which way is the best for us, for our body, each of us as an individual. And it will look different than the person next to you. That is why in yoga, every position that we do looks different than the person next to us, because we are all made so differently. Imagine your breath drawing from the outer edges of your nostrils up to the center of your third eye, and back down and out through the nostrils. This breath moving into the third eye creates clarity for what it is that we need. What we need in our body, in our mind, in our life, to help propel us forward, to achieve our goals and our intentions, to remove obstacles in our way. So don't be afraid to play Goldilocks a little bit and notice what is too much, what is not enough, what is just right. I invite you to one more big stretch with me today. Extending your arms out or up over your head and pointing your toes, zipping your legs together and reaching through your fingers, through your toes, up through your belly button. Reach, 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 stretch, 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 and relax. Try to just let your body just fall again. A couple more choices to make. You can stay where you are if you need more time. You can roll to a side. You have to choose which side. Which one calls to you, which one feels better. Or you can just roll yourself up to a seat if you'd like. Taking time to just kind of notice how your body has changed, how it's shifting, how different it might feel if something has been awakened. Like sometimes after yoga class, it's like, oh, I didn't know that shoulder was so tight until I started stretching. You know, my neck needed that, my hip, my legs. Sometimes it's like, I didn't know my legs were not feeling so good. And maybe that's just something that we need to kind of gather that energy for and use it to propel us to work for those things that we need to improve in our body. This is an assessment. Yoga is an assessment of where we're at, how we feel today, right now. And next time you do it, it's an assessment of that hour. Try to relax your shoulders, sit up nice and tall. Imagine that breath, again, just moving up to your third eye, through the top of your head perhaps, grounding you back down. Take a moment to thank your body for being so capable, for being so strong, for the ability to feel all of the sensations that your nervous system allows you to feel. Gratitude for your mind, for getting you here today, rolling out the mat with me, spending this last hour dedicating, creating clarity for yourself. I bow to you. In yoga we say the word namaste, which means I bow to you. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Namaste.
Namaste.
And shukriya. Thank you. And shukriya means thank you.